Despicable. Me 4's Gru Jr. reveal makes the franchise's timeline even more confusing. The trailer for Despicable Me 4 reveals that Gru has had a son since the last movie, and this brings up questions about the franchise's timeline. The trailer for Despicable Me 4 introduces Gru Jr., and this reveal makes the timeline for the Despicable Me franchise all the more confusing. A lot has changed for Gru since his first movie was released in 2010, which seems to continue into the franchise's fourth installment. Since his story began, Gru has gained 3 adoptive daughters, a wife, a twin brother, and now a new, bouncing baby boy. However, through all this time, none of the characters in the Despicable Me franchise seem to have aged. Despicable Me, 2010, ended with Gru leaving his life of crime to instead be a father to his 3 adoptive daughters, Margo, Edith, and Agnes, and they have since become quite the complete family. In addition to the adorable minions that inhabit Gru's home, Despicable Me 2, 2013, saw Gru fall in love and marry secret agent Lucy Wilde, while Despicable Me 3, 2017, reunited the ex-supervillain with his golden-locked twin brother. It's difficult to say how much in-world time has passed while all this happened, but despicable. Me 4's trailer implies a bit of a time jump. The biggest reveal of Despicable Me 4's trailer is that Gru and Lucy Wilde have welcomed a baby boy since the events of Despicable Me 3. This is wonderfully fitting, since each installment in the franchise has seen more colorful individuals added to Gru's family. Of course, since bringing a whole new person into the world takes some time, this reveal also indicates that Despicable Me 4 picks up after a time gap in the franchise. The trailer shows Gru Jr. crawling around and interacting with his family, indicating that he is over 6 months old in Despicable Me 4. This would mean that the events of Despicable Me 3 must have happened at least a year and a half before the new movie. In all, this is one of the few indicators in the franchise regarding how much time has passed in-world, aside from the historical markers of the Minions movies, but it does create a bit of a problem within Despicable Me's continuity. The timeline for the Despicable Me franchise was already confusing since Margo, Edith, and Agnes haven't changed a bit since the first movie hit theaters. So, while a lot has happened in Gru's life and more than a decade has passed in the real world, it could be assumed that the first 3 Despicable Me movies spanned a much shorter time. Perhaps Gru meeting Lucy Wilde in Despicable Me 2 only happened a couple of months after he adopted the girls, and maybe he met his brother Drew in Despicable Me 3 shortly thereafter. Still, Gru and Lucy having a baby that is at least 6 months old in Despicable Me 4 throws this condensed timeline idea out the window. Especially in the case of little Agnes, she should look considerably older after her brother is born compared to when Gru and Lucy got married. In all, Gru Jr. in Despicable Me 4 confirms that the franchise doesn't have a defined sense of continuity. Instead, Margo, Edith, Agnes, and now Gru Jr. can be expected to remain more or less the same age indefinitely. Since other major animated franchises tend to follow linear timelines, especially those from Disney and Pixar like Toy Story, it's easy to expect Despicable Me 2 as well. However, it's not uncommon for such fictional worlds to remain frozen in time in some ways, but progress in others. Take The Simpsons, for example. The series has been on the air for decades and has seen major moments in popular culture come and go, but the characters have remained ageless. The fact that Gru's adoptive daughters haven't grown, or even changed their clothes, indicates the same for Despicable Me. Of course, Illumination could choose to change this up whenever. The Minions movies follow a more linear timeline since they revealed the origins of Gru's yellow helpers and their involvement in points of the 1960s and 1970s. Though the modern story of Despicable Me has seen Gru's kids frozen in time, it's always possible that Despicable Me 5 will shift to Gru coping with having adult and teenage daughters while raising his adolescent son. This is the benefit of such flexible continuity. Gru's story can go in virtually any direction after Despicable Me 4. Stay ahead of the curve by subscribing to the Visionary Cinema YouTube channel, where you'll be the first to know about the latest movie releases.